one of the things that I like to look at is hex staking versus PulseChain validating, and then specifically hex staking on PulseChain versus Ethereum. So this is a good website to take a look at some of the different data points for the different like payouts and stuff like that. So you can see here recently, I believe hex from Ethereum is on top here. Yeah, 100%. This is hex from Ethereum. So as of recently, hex from Ethereum has been getting paid out slightly more than hex from PulseChain. Now, hex from PulseChain has a little bit more current stakers. I could show you that over here if this loads. Yeah, over here. So yeah, Ethereum has about 119,000 stakers. PulseChain is about 127,000 stakers, and that makes perfect sense just because like the gas fees are probably a bit lower on Pulse, meaning that you're more incentivized to create a stake over there. Now, if you're looking at PulseChain validating versus hex staking, I think a lot of the people coming in crypto barely understand what is going on in terms like the monetary systems of these coins and like stuff like that. Let alone if you try and tell them like, yeah, set up the hardware, make the validator script, like plug in your, get your addresses all plugged in. Like it gets a little bit confusing to explain to like, I guess, your regular guy. The other thing is too, when you have to buy, let's say you have to buy hardware to be a pulse chain validator, just maybe you don't have a proper computer or proper hardware or software that can run the pulse chain validator programs, then you'll have to go out and buy hardware. And one of Richard's biggest things with Bitcoin mining was if you were to have taken all that money you spent on hardware and just bought the coins instead, you could have made way more money, especially like way early in the day. If you want to like, if you tried to start up some huge Bitcoin mining infrastructure, you are probably just better off buying the coins instead of trying to mine, because Bitcoin went up 6.9 million X, right? From 1 penny to 69,000. So sort of like the same thing here with PulseChain, where a new guy coming in, PulseChain validating is great for experienced advanced users who have like the hardware probably already available, or like bigger bags where they can just purchase it. It's not a big deal. But for the regular normie, I think hex staking is a lot better, because you could do it from your phone. You don't need any like really advanced computers to just like pull up a website, deposit your hex, and just delay gratification. Not only that, hex staking it brings more value sort of in a way to the ecosystem, because I guess PulseChain validating does this in a way too, because you're you're validating for the network, right? You're securing the network, and you're sort of leaving your tokens off to the side. And I believe you can exit your validator whenever you want is the only thing, and you could market sell. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have in PulseChain like validators like linearly or exponentially kind of going up into the bull market, and then maybe there's a top sometime into the future, and then validators start to sort of trickle out the network. Not like we're down to zero or anything like that, but let's say we get to like 100,000 validators, maybe that gets down to like 80,000 in a bear market or something like that, and like validators exit. The thing about hex is if you're staked for 15 years, you are locked up and staked for 15 years. Like there's no turning back really. Like you could EES, if you made some HSIs, there's a few different things you could do with that to like kind of exit, like kind of like get some value out. But in terms of hex staking, you're sort of locked in natively, and that's really good as well, because it brings people back. Like if they forgot about their hex, they'll come back and they'll remember, oh yeah, I have my hex stake here, it's chilling, and maybe hex is worth a lot more. Not only that, go ahead.
I just want to say, just to remind, if anyone new is watching too, I know a lot misconception about hex is you have to lock for 15 years. That is the maximum time. You certainly can lock for a day, you can lock for a year, 5 years. A lot of people do ladders. They do, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, like they'll do 5 or 6 different ones, split up their hex. So just anyone new watching, if you lock for 15 years, you are locked 15 years, unless you want to mercy and stake halfway through 7.5 years, you lose all your yield, but you get your principal back. That's your own deal. But anyways, just want to clarify for anyone out there new, because there's some new people who are like, oh my gosh, 15 years. Like, no, you could do 5 years. You could do 1 year. You do whatever you want. It's up to you.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. You guys can stake for as little or as long as you want. I personally, like, majority of my hex is staked for like 15 years, 10 years plus, and that's just because I understand like the compounding interest. Like when you really truly understand the hex system, like if you guys go watch Crispy Man's videos, he has really good really good content on the T share and stuff like that, and all the hex data. So when you really understand the compounding interest and the effects of the T share, you can really start to you really start to know, and you have the knowledge to know that 10 years is where you sort of max out your bonus in terms of like you make 300% more shares. So if I had I think right now T shares like 40,000. I can't remember exactly. It's probably right in front of my face here somewhere.
Should be 30,000. I think we had 30,000.
Yeah, 31,000. So yeah, if I had 31,000 hex and I staked it for 15 year or 10 years, I would get 3 T shares. But if I staked it for one day, I would only get 1 T share. Now, what makes that so effective is since you're getting 3 times as many shares and you're locking that up for longer, you're gonna make basically 3 times like more base inflation than someone who locked up for one day. And that's going to be for like 10 or 15 year span. Even if you're looking at basically, let's say the 3 T shares for 10 years versus 3 T shares for 15 years, one person is going to come out extremely more ahead. And it's like in compounding interest, the last compound, or like let's say in terms of the hex, the last year is always the most exponential and the greatest like compounding like exponential effect. And that's how it always is, like the last year, the last year, the last year. So the longer you stake for, the more and more and more and more exponential the hex is going to get. Like by year 13 to 14, you're probably going to see like a bigger hex payout per day, like differential gap than like we're getting paid in total today. So these are, and there's that sort of speculation as well. Like when you have more adoption, you'll have the T-share rate creep up even faster, which will make the T-share payout per T-share increase even more quicker. So there's different market functions and different things that people, me or you, or new users coming in can do to increase or decrease the payout per T-share per share. But that's actually an interesting topic. If you have time, quick Max, I'll go over like hex T-shares. And
I was going to ask, yeah, real quick, because we only got maybe like 5 minutes left. I was going to ask, I wanted you to go over what the most bullish thing for PulseChain is before we wrap up too. But yeah, quick explanation. T-shares would be great.
And I'll go over PulseChain as well. But in terms of T-shares, so this is like a regular model in terms of if the system just sort of stayed the same. Now, this is only a 10,000 principal, and it's only calling for a 500% ROI APY after 15 years. Now, this is if basically just the system stays the same, like no new people are really coming in, and like no one really like emergency end stakes too early or anything like that. Now, this F2 adoption model is slightly different. It has increased adoption. So if you were to sort of see like patterns from the past sort of keep up into the future, this is sort of what you'd see. And you're looking at 700% ROI. Now, the difference between a 10-year and a 15-year could be even greater than you could even imagine. Because if we're looking here like 2039, and then let's knock off 5 years to 2033 to 2034, you can see like that last bit of exponential growth here is where you've made like that is where you make your gains basically. And you're gonna miss out on that if you only do a 10-year stake, just because when you do a 15-year stake, you're gonna be able to accumulate that for 5 years more basically. And if we're looking at like insane bullish projections, you can see here, this is 2000% ROI if we have insane adoption. I'm not sure which multiple this is, and I'm not sure how exactly it's accounted for. I'm sure if you guys went to hexfire.io and Crispy Man's YouTube channel, he would have more information on it. But if we're looking like even here, 2039, you take off 5 years to 2034, you can see you would miss out on all this growth if you were to do a basically a 10-year stake versus a 15-year stake starting like let's say today. And that's my whole thing that's why I love the 5555s, is because this final compounding interest growth is where you actually make the gains. Like you're looking at 135% versus all the way up here 427%. So there you go.
Got a question real quick from B-Raz. That 10,000 hex it's based on?
Yeah, that is 10,000 hex that it's based on, and you can look at the reward or the payout here. It's 204,000, and
That's
let's
a lot
say
more than 10,000.
that is a lot more than 10,000 exactly. And if we're talking like 50 cent e-hex, you can do the math. I'm sure it's like 100K, right? 100,000 or 10,000 e-hex right now is what, like $1,000, I think. So that's not a bad return, and that's why I really like the 5555s, because you can't really beat that ratio trading. Like you could probably outperform a 1 year t-shirt ratio trading, but I don't think you could outperform a 5555 ratio trading unless you're a beast.